Okay, this is the capital planning meeting. This is our first meeting, so actually our second meeting. We are opening this meeting at 4:15 p.m. and we do have a quorum. We'll just take a roll call vote.
Geraldine Bazikas.
Mark Hussey.
And Teresa A. Morse are present. We are going to start this meeting with the review with some dates by Eric. And I also want to start with just a general apology to both the chief, police chief and the fire chief. My invitation was not worded correctly, and they are coming into this meeting not prepared as I'm sure they would love to be, because they had literally about a half an hour notice. So I thank them both so much for coming out here. And I do apologize for that, but I'm sure they'll be professional as they always are, and we'll get from them what we need to know. What we are going to do is look over what they presented last year, get some general ideas on how they see things moving forward, but based on what Eric is going to present to us by dates on when they are required to give their capital request, we're going to slightly reschedule our upcoming meetings to make sure that they have the correct time to prepare and give their formal plans at a later date in January. Any questions about that? So you're all caught up, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm caught up.
Okay, so Eric, you tell me if I got what you said correctly, that the chiefs, the department heads, et cetera, are going to be required by the first week in January to get you to the request.
The capital plan request, that's correct.
Okay, so sometime beginning of January.
Correct.
So what we would like to have in a formal format is their request following what they send to you. You're going to review it with them, and we'll go to it at a formal meeting that they'll have to present us following January 8th. And then I have 30 days before the meeting, 60 days before the meeting, so sometime in March, yes, that I have to present it to the Board of Selectmen. So we'll get them in most of them in January.
Yes.
Okay. So that being said, the first thing I'll note in the minutes, we are going to cancel the next two meetings that we already had planned, the two meetings in December, to give everybody more time to present.
The 12th and the 19th, right?
Correct. We've canceled the December meetings. And we need to look at dates for January. I know Tuesday is usually a good day for people, but I'm willing to look at alternative dates, or if there's other dates that are better.
Tuesdays, I have FinCom. It's late. It depends on what time we meet.
But at 4 o'clock, if it's acceptable to everyone, works for us, right?
Yeah, because we're meeting
Because
at
meeting at 5.
Right, and that's what I was, and I'm back to being your liaison now, by the
Yes.
way.
Oh, yeah, right.
So the
Right,
way I
okay.
figured it, 4 here.
And you guys
5,
meet right after that,
right,
though, don't
and
you?
then 6,
6.
right,
Right.
yeah, so I think it works out. Okay, so.
Unless you're the one that has to sit through all those meetings.
And sometimes I do.
Oh, I do. Oh, I know the feeling. It's a long day.
Okay, so we're talking January. I don't know what the Board of Selectmen have yet, but.
I think that the meetings for the Board of Selectmen are going to be on the 9th and the 23rd.
Okay,
But
so why
again, the
don't,
16th, the 23rd, and the 30th are the 3 Tuesdays in January. That would probably make sense, because the 9th, I think it's probably too soon after they submit.
so why don't we do the same thing, police and fire
On the 16th
on the 9th?
and the 9th.
Well, I think the 9th might be a little too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're
16th?
just getting them
Okay.
the first.
Oh, okay, you're just
It
getting
might
it.
be
The 8th,
good
yeah.
for us, or have us look at them
Yeah,
before the
I
meeting,
want to
too,
submit them to
in
you
case
guys
we
and
have
see them and have
questions.
a
Okay.
conversation with the chiefs about them.
So police and fire on the 16th?
On the 16th, okay, at 4 o'clock.
Or,
write this
and that you don't have a FinCom.
I'm retired, I'll be retired then, so I don't really care.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So the 16th?
Yeah, and
Okay.
then the next week, if it's all right, we'll just get back on the 23rd, and that's where, that, we're basically in meetings all day then, that's a 4, 5, 6 meeting, you got the FinMecon on
Right.
the 23rd.
We get out before you though.
And that we can do, we do, cemetery.
4 o'clock. I don't know. I don't remember who you had.
Cemetery, I'm trying to think who to
What, for
want to
the
do next.
16th? Are we doing fire department and police that day?
We're doing fire and
Yeah,
chief
okay.
on the
Yeah,
16th,
all right.
and then cemetery.
I had water in facilities on for the next one.
Okay, water and facilities we'll do next, and water usually is a quick one too.
Right, because it's their own money.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a, you
Do
know.
whatever you want.
Right, right.
And then the last one,
What was
Would
it?
be,
Cemetery and Parks and Highway.
Yeah. So that would be, what date would that be?
And
30th.
probably miscellaneous,
yeah. and-
Right.
just in
and
case
I
some other
did, yeah,
department comes in with
And the
them.
30th,
So that'll be, parks, cemetery,
yeah,
and highway.
In highway.
okay. Eric, you'll be in charge of letting these people know
Yes.
that these are their dates.
And these are all at 4 PM?
Yes, all at
Okay.
4 PM.
Okay.
I will get the agendas out for all of those. I'm just gonna change the agendas, dates on the
Yep.
agendas they have, get
Yep.
those out to Dave and get the new meeting scheduled and make sure that he cancels those other two meetings. I also assume I have to let the town clerk know because they
Yeah.
have been posted,
You
get-
so to cancel, those, cancel.
And that way, then the capital committee as a whole has several weeks in which, if you need to have another meeting, kind of discuss and make a
Right,
final
right,
determination after you've heard.
So maybe
everybody.
if we did want to meet on the 7th or whatever that earlier date was, the 11th, to discuss it, we could, but I'm not saying we should, so.
But you could meet
You know.
in February. You have the whole month of February when you could meet because the recommendation isn't due till the end of February.
Okay. Oh, I see what
So
you're saying.
after you've
Yes,
heard
yes.
from
I
everybody,
meant before to preview what we were looking at, you
Yeah.
know, we could do that, but that's fine.
I think probably waiting till you hear from everybody probably makes more sense.
Absolutely.
And then you can have a meeting without
Right.
people there to kind of discuss what you want to.
Okay, so Laura, when I first started this is going way, way back. This isn't where we ended up, but I thought it would be a good place to start again today too.
Can I make, just before we talked about the chief, can I just make
Yeah,
just kind of a brief statement, which is, I want to say on the record for something we discussed earlier, which is, right now, there are two ways that we can fund capital
oh,
planning.
that's right. I did want to know that.
The first is from the capital stabilization account. That has, I believe, a little over $100,000 in it at this time, maybe 150.
Yeah.
The second way to fund capital projects is via issuing debt. Right now, the debt service that the town pays in the FY24 budget is about $465,000 for our debt service. Compared to other towns our size, we're low. We have a low amount of debt. That's in part because some of our debt is highway debt it's not general fund debt. So they're borrowing $20 million for a water treatment plant, but that's not general fund debt. The general
The
fund,
water
it's funded by the
company.
water enterprise. So our debt is actually relatively low. And
It's fire trucks, things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
we don't have any, we haven't had to pay for any buildings recently. Unlike other, Ashby's got a public safety building that they're
Right.
borrowing to pay for.
We're not looking at one, chief.
Yeah.
Plenty of room.
So
hopefully.
we are lucky enough to not be in that situation. So,
Yeah.
which means,
Lot of work.
under the Massachusetts state statute, the total amount of debt that a municipality can have is I believe it's 5% of their
They didn't do a budget.
well, no, it's their gross valuation of the town.
Oh.
So all the real, and ours is, $1.1 billion or
Right,
something
right.
like that. So we could have over $50 million in debt. That's not the debt payment, but that's the total amount of debt we can have. We're obviously nowhere close to that. We have a very low amount of debt and a very relatively low debt service.
Do you know what other surrounding towns have?
So
Rocks, you know,
it's hard to,
significant amount more.
well, it's hard to judge because some of them are taking on large projects. And that means their debts are higher. So
Yeah,
Pepperell
yeah,
has
yeah.
a decent amount of debt, and I'm only looking in the only ones I looked at was the region, Groton and Pepperell and
Mhm.
Ashby and Ashburnham. And so Ashby has very, very little debt. They're taking out a public safety they're gonna have to pay back, and all of a sudden their debt's gonna go
They got
really
a
high.
reckoning coming.
Yeah. Pepperell has significantly more debt than we do.
Yeah.
In part because they have to fund their capital project. We've gotten lucky that the buildings that we have that are new are not funded by the town. Other towns don't have that sort of largesse coming to them, and when they're doing new towns, they're having to fund them. So
Yeah.
the Pepperells and the Grottons of the world are funding things out of their own, debt service, and so their debt service is significantly higher than ours are, and higher per capita, which I think is a more important. It's a higher percentage of the budget and a higher per capita debt than Townsend
Then we
has.
do, yeah, sure.
So what that means is we have a little bit of flexibility to take on debt if we need to. And I wouldn't say we should do that willy-nilly.
Mhm.
But it's not going to harm it shouldn't harm our rating with the rating agencies or our standing in the state if we do take on a little bit more debt to fund appropriate projects.
Okay.
Kind of to
What would it do to the tax rate? Depending on the,
it all depends on how much we borrow, like we borrowed,
well, it sounds like no matter what, we want to purchase, we have to borrow for it.
yeah, I mean, it's possible. In the past, the town has purchased some things with free cash.
Right.
The
Which
town
we
has,
all want to watch. Yeah.
which is something that I'm not comfortable suggesting because I think we as a town need to kind of build up our reserves in free cash if we can. I'd rather borrow and have a fixed amount of payment over years than spend it on free cash than not have that free cash for emergencies. I would rather use free cash for things that are unanticipated than for debt that we can, anticipate and budget for. We took on debt last year of about $1 million, I believe it was, as a part of the capital plan. Those bonds haven't been issued in parts because of the large amounts of purchases. They're not things we're buying right now. We authorized a fire truck that's not going to be ready for 4 years.
Right.
So we're not going to start paying for that for 4 years.
Unfortunately, that's how we had to look at things like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the timeline.
Yeah. We needed to get in because we know in
Supply
4
chain,
years.
whatever.
Yeah, this whole
Yeah, we
supply
locked
chain
in
is-
the price.
We locked in the
Yeah,
price
right,
in theory now. But we won't be taking on any debt payments of that for 5 years. We've got,
But we got to look forward.
we've got, and quite frankly, we are anticipating, and I think the chief will tell you, we're anticipating hopefully using ambulance fund receipts to
That
offset
we always do that.
that the fire
That's a
truck.
big, for the fire truck, yes.
Yeah, so that's
It amazes me how much money that actually
it's
generates.
$50,000 a year approximately for 15 years. We're going to
Yeah.
be paying for that fire truck.
Yeah, but
And
they're
so-
gonna, it'd probably come out of that
And,
fund.
it should- and we're hoping that there's going to be some funds in that ambulance receipts to pay for that
Yeah.
debt. There is an ambulance that, if you pay attention to the budget, which I know you guys do, there's $101,000 ambulance payment that's been in the budget every year. That payment, this is the last year of that, so we're going to redirect those funds to pay for the
Fire truck.
fire truck that we
Yeah.
authorized a year and a half ago.
Oh,
and-
yes.
And for the fire truck that we authorized a year ago. So that's we're taking that $100,000. Each of those fire trucks is going to be $50,000 a year for 15 years. We're paying off the first one now, even though it hasn't been delivered yet. We started paying early
Yeah,
to try and not have overlap for as long as possible. But that $100,000 is going to pay for that. So it shouldn't have an impact on the debt ratio of the town. We do have about $50,000 in debt dropping off in FY20, in debt payments dropping off in FY25. We're finishing up paying off a couple of bonds as of July, I believe it is. So that's going to free up some
Sure.
cash, so we could borrow.
we're not devastated, but
Yeah, if there was borrowing that added up to less than, I mean, I would probably hedge a bet and say, is it $25,000 a year? Is it $50,000 a year? That's the payment. It probably would come out in the wash in our debt service.
Okay.
Given that the ambulance receipts are paying for the fire trucks, and those are our big capital expenses. All other debt service, I believe that, we've got some other debt service that's going to issue from other things that we purchased. But of the $1 million we borrowed, 800 and some odd thousand of it was that fire truck. So,
Right.
that's where our money's going, is to pay for fire apparatus. So the rest will likely be issuing bans on, but the amounts of those are going to be relatively small. So like we borrowed some money for the facilities truck.
Last year. Right?
That's $40,000 over 5 years. So that, that's an $8,000 a year payment approximately. We get money at a very low rate because municipal borrowing happens at rates that private sector people usually can't get. So we're able to borrow money at lower rates than other folks, and we have a good rating. So, but depending on what the departments ask for, there is likely an amount in the budget that would be reasonable to accept for debt. The key about borrowing, if we do it, is that when we borrow an asset, we have to set an expected lifespan of the asset, and the borrowing can't extend longer than that. So we set an expected lifespan for these fire trucks of 20 years, even though we're likely to use them for significantly longer than 20 years.
Right,
But that's our
borrow
lifespan for
that.
20, so we're borrowing for 15.
Yeah.
We set an expected lifespan of the pickup truck at 7 years. We're borrowing for 5. There's a highway vehicle we said was going to be 10 years, so we're borrowing, I think, for 8 over that. So you have to, so you just take the amount that we're borrowing. So if you have to borrow $250,000 for a capital plan, how long can we borrow that for? If it's 10-year assets, you're talking about 8 years, and $250,000 over 8 years is $32,000 a year. If it's a 15-year asset, a longer term asset, or a capital asset that could be, longer than that, you set an expected life expectancy of it, and then you can't borrow for longer than the expected life expectancy. So, once you know that in your mind, like how long can we borrow this for? That tells you what the debt service would be in general. You add, 5% per year to that, and that tells you what the debt service is, and that lets you know what we can borrow. So.
I gotta mark this out.
So that's just kind of in general. I will reach out to all these departments and make sure that they're available for those, and we'll be here on those dates.
Okay,
And as soon as we get the capital plan submissions in, we'll send them out to the members of the capital planning committee, so you can all have them hopefully on the 9th or 10th.
Perfect.
Assuming everybody gets everything on time to January, and give you a week to look for problems before everybody meets.
okay, can you stay for this part?
I
Can't?
can't.
Just for the solar carport?
Yes, I can absolutely stay for that. Absolutely.
So, as I said, Chief, thanks again for coming on such short notice. I greatly appreciate it, and so does the town. This is what you presented last year, and if you could do it in a similar format, that we're fine. We don't need anything really fancy. This is how you presented it to last year. I don't know if there's any other form that you prefer to use, but we do not have a set way you need to present. Whatever you're comfortable with, this is how you gave it last year. It was perfect for us. If you want to do it the same, if there's a way that's easier for you, you can go ahead.
Sharon,
So-
did we go over this at finance? The solar,
Did we what?
we went over that at the finance committee meeting, I think.
So on last year's plan, this is last year's plan.
Yeah.
And on last year's, we had that this year, we had one of the first things we talked about was this in your report. One of the first things you listed was the solar carport and the charging stations. And I'm just curious, because as you say, we left it blank, and I think that's all we left off. We kind of knew it was coming, but didn't. So we would probably, if there's going to be expenses with that or whatever, if you've got an idea, if we can get that redefined for this year, what that involved, what expenses that, if any, we're not exactly sure. So that can be put in. Not asking for answers today, I'm just telling you what we hope to see during your formal presentation.
And-
Even if you just tell us that we brought it to, we think that that this comes to fruition. You know, last year it was part of it, so I just want to make sure that we close that loop.
Right.
Makes sense?
Just so folks know, the solar canopies at the police station are still going forward.
Okay.
Those would be a long-term lease with the solar generation company, and we'd be getting our electricity for
Was
the.
that on the warrant, was that an article that the town voted on, or did they pull that? I thought we voted on that.
We voted
So
on that, but it was going to be the police station and the library,
And the
and we
library.
cut the
We
library
cut the
out.
library,
Yes.
correct. So this is basically in the going, right, is,
But it's not going to be a capital. It's not going to be anything. Hopefully for the capital.
We
And
didn't
then
know when this
even
was
when they're-
presented last year,
Yeah.
so that's why
Yeah, the
I
only
want
thing
to
I can
close that
see
loop.
as far as a capital expense and one of the cheat sheet that you had given us only really reflects my asks early on. It does not
Right,
reflect these.
Exactly,
Which
right.
when you move out, and I'll go through each one of them and let you know what the projections were. You can add it to your list here because they're not in there. The only thing I could see happening, and I'll do the work once I get a better handle on at least, is whether or not I put a placeholder in one of the later fiscal years, maybe 27, maybe relative to the charging stations piece of it. So it's really, can look at it as two completely different projects. One is this carport. It's Eric and I had met with our contractor, and they're going to put the infrastructure in place so that when we do need to add car chargers, the conduit and things like that are already in place.
basically now it's set to run the police station, though, am I correct?
Correct. There will be
Yeah,
no
okay.
car
Yeah.
charging part of it,
But you're
which
gonna
makes
put the
sense.
conduits in and all, but
Yeah.
Correct.
That's a
The
great
infrastructure as best
Good
we
idea.
can in foresight. I don't know, and this is very early, and I'll just move right into it, is that next item on our idea is the vehicle leases. I have yet to sit down with my finance guy who does our capital leases. With Bidenomics and such, I'm not sure what those leasing numbers look like. We did have the foresight as a group here, though, to increase that in fiscal 25 and beyond to about 85,000, which is about a $10,000 increase in our annual leasing payment to kind of make up for and kind of address the increases for inflation and supply chain issues and that type of thing. So I'm very early in researching those vehicles. I'm starting to get prices now, but I should have a better idea of what that is. I think the committee was wise in putting that $10,000 in, and I'll do my best to maintain that pricing point. So
can I interrupt quickly?
Oh, sure.
I thought you had mentioned at one time it was cost more to the gasoline powered vehicle versus electric. So you're looking at both because we don't have charging stations?
No, so last time around, I had to pay more to get gasoline only as opposed to hybrids.
Okay.
They were a few bucks more, a couple $100 each more, so it wasn't a major issue, but it did signal to me that moving forward, this is probably going to be the last hurrah in the next 5-6 years where I'm going to have to make the full transition. I've done a lot of studying of the issue to try and do cost comparison and look at the long-term maintenance for these vehicles and such, and I'll continue to do that. I don't see it in this 3-year window, which is good, but we may be looking at hybrids. I'll see when I get the numbers in and start working. I may not be able to get just gasoline only. It may be something that is not available, or if it's available for that much more of a cost, I'm not going to do it this time around.
So when you spoke to us last year, you basically said we're in the second year of a 3-year lease, right?
No, are we all?
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
But how many vehicles, like it should be a rotating, right? 3 this year, 3 next year, 3 next year, 3, right?
No,
How does it work?
nope.
Okay.
Every 3 years, we buy half the fleet.
Half, okay, half fleet every 3 years. Thank you. I didn't pick
What's the
that up
fleet
on that.
like? Is
Nine.
it 9?
Yep, so we bring in 4 and move out 4 is basically what we do. Try and keep that one extra one as a vehicle kicking around for maintenance and that type of thing. It's worked really well. One of the success stories of our time here in the last 6 or 7 years for sure. We really have flattened our maintenance line for sure. We flattened this police equipment line. If you study that over the past decade or previous decade to when we started this program, you will see volatile swings when they bought a couple, then they bought 3, then they buy 1, then they buy 3, then they buy, and it really was quite a lot, one, to maintain, but a lot of downtime, a lot of unanticipated costs, difficult to plan.
Safety
We really
issues.
have gotten away from that. We have very, very little downtime in our cars. We've done some good things there. One of the things that we incorporated this past year, we should see the fruits of that in fiscal 26 and 25, which is we now have a revolving fund for administrative fees for use of our cars on private details. So people have paid to have our cars at these details, that those fees go into a fund we can tap into for maintenance, which will really help us with that cost and stabilize those costs. It's amazing how how often police cars are utilized. And when we were billing in the past, we go to the general fund and my maintenance budget would go up and there was nothing I could do about it. So we opened that, which will help that, stabilize that. So
And
we
I-
have
And I'm sure
stabilized.
you did your homework, chief, but of course I'm gonna ask it because we're on the record. But
Sure.
when they lease for private details, our insurance covers that.
Yes,
completely.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to, on the
Sure,
record.
they're very well heeled. We've been doing it for decades. So what we did was we predicted that the leases would probably go up and we have it earmarked at 85 out to fiscal 28 is what I kind of figured. I'll do my best to try and fall within those prices. We'll see when that comes around. There are some volatile things in there. One of them is what we get for our trade-ins. The other thing is that leasing rate that they give us, ebbs and flows with interest rates. So it can be a little difficult. Like Mr. Slagle was saying, though, we do have a little bit better of an interest rate than the private sector does. So there is that. But it's in the early stages, but I certainly will have at least a placeholder for our January 8th due date. The next one has to do with the records management. And this is something that I've presented to the committee since fiscal 21. And every time I do, what ends up happening is all the other departments in town realize it would be really nice for them as well. And we end up putting together a package that becomes onerous and then doesn't get even put on the warrant. We've got a significant issue at the police station relative to records. We have a liability with records. The records that we keep, certainly we are obligated to keep in a certain fashion and have them retrievable and redactable and all these other things. So a scanning project for us would be incredibly efficient. One of the things that we have seen in the last 3 or 4 years with the advent of body cameras in particular is an increase in public records requests. Now, we've done what we could to retrieve some of those funds. What we do is we charge for public records requests, particularly video, and we have a revolving fund for that then we can use to backfill and pay for supplies to meet those demands. That said, records in the station have never been purged properly since they have been taken. We have oodles of written records that we really do need to wrestle to the ground and develop a scanning project to purge the ones that we don't need to keep anymore and to be better at retrieving them in a proper fashion. It's been a long time.
It's the
Since I-
third time I've heard it from you. This is
Yeah, it keeps
gonna
coming
be a
up on
bigger,
under
it's gonna
ARPA
become a bigger
funding too,
problem.
whether we should. But as the chief correctly said, every time we bring it up, then we're like, well, if we're gonna do that, then we should do the library. If we're
But we
gonna
need
do
to
the
start somewhere.
library.
You probably
we're
got the
gonna do-
most,
But this might come under ARPA as well, but it should come up.
Well, the thing is with his records, I mean, they're. more
they're a little
confidential,
different than
more
most other
confidential
records.
Than the town clerk's records, you know.
Right, why didn't we get, it got put on the capital
But we
expense
cut
last
it,
year.
we cut it because we didn't have any money,
Did we?
if I remember,
Both,
yeah.
I think that, you know,
No, we kept it there
We
last year.
kept, it was in the budget, or
we
we
didn't do it.
didn't do it.
It did get added to the
It
warrant.
didn't get, it must have got cut at the last, oh,
I
it was
think it got cut.
requested though.
No,
I know.
absolutely. You
I gotta look
requested it every time
See, I'm saying here, what
No, and I
happened,
really
we
do
did.
appreciate the support. And to Mrs. Bazikis' point, one of the things that makes it difficult for us is once I do scan, I can then responsibly develop algorithms to purge the records that we don't need anymore and that are quite frankly a liability for us to hang on to and hang on to the ones that we are required to hang on to in a much more responsible fashion. They're boxed up sometimes in the station. They've been there forever. We've got computerized records that go back 27 years or something like that have never been properly purged. We've paid to convert them from software system to software system. And it's time that we say no to that anymore and really start to look at a long-term plan. And I think I'm not alone in this profession is this way. We've only had computerized records for about 40 years in our country. So we're all going through this at the same time. It does look like the industry has settled on the standard of PDF, although there is a PDF in another letter, which is not readable, is read only, and you cannot convert it into any other software to manipulate it. It's a museum level standard. They use that at the federal government. It's a pretty well-heeled process at this point. So I think we're coming in at the right time where it wouldn't be all that difficult. It is a difficult process. To your point, there is some privacy implications. We have to choose a vendor with CJIS permissions, which is, certain background checks on their employees and those types of things when it comes to that. But it is a project that is a bit of a holdup on a number of other projects. I'd like to start to look at the things we can do in the building. You had mentioned our space. Our space is tight, and I would look to expand. I could be using some of those rooms much more efficiently had they not be filled with paper. That this is 2023. There's no need
Right.
for that in this day and age. For sure, it makes it easier for my people. I'm not hurting their back trying to find boxes, and
Right.
it is a pretty
It's not-
significant
yeah.
thing. We've got a good staff on to do it at this point too. We've got an excellent records clerk, and we utilize the services of interns at least 2 or 3 times a year that we put a little small projects like this to do. So I am ready to go.
What do you think it is? What was your number?
The last I had,
35,
Approximately.
yeah.
the last I had run the numbers, it was 35.
Yeah.
I'd like to rerun those numbers certainly to make sure that they're adjusted properly, and I'll have those.
Okay. And that was to get started or to?
I think it's to complete the project. I think that would be the
And
project.
that's gotta go up now, I'm sure, because.
I would have to take a
it's-
look at that. It's been a few years since I've run it. I think I did do the spitball that last year, so I'd have to look and make sure I'd had that for you on January 8th.
We've talked about this many times, but we really gotta try not to brush it off somehow.
Right, and the other way, we know the importance, the other thing, I know the Board of Selectmen, we're looking at that
The
as
ARPA.
one of ARPA,
Yeah,
Fun.
that'd be nice.
yeah. That seems like well suited for ARPA funds.
So the other ones I am just fixing to push out. I have a number of projects slated this year coming up that are going to make it so that in order for me to oversee these projects properly and efficiently, I wouldn't be able to handle anyways, quite frankly. So I'm going to push the next 2 out another fiscal year, if not even 2. I'll have that information ready for you on the 8th, but I don't plan on asking for anything outside of those. I
And
received,
now, is that the bathroom
there was
project?
the bathroom for the second floor.
That's
and then-
still
that's
out there,
why
It's
we're-
still out there?
Yes, and the renovation of the communication center and the records thing. I think I do not want to do that until such time as I understand what I'm going to do with records and what that actually looks like.
What that happens.
Good deal.
So if you look at your request from last year, it looks like it's pretty much the same, except for this is not, we know it's coming, now you just gotta give us information on the charging stations, the vehicle rotation plan, just gotta update. The record, we gotta move that to the top of the list. And then the other 2 are gonna be, we need to get that record one done.
Yeah,
you know,
I'll-
for that-
I'll-
for
And
the
that'll
habit.
open up
But
space. for
I don't
it.
even think you have to really rewrite the thing, if you can just
Yeah, I'll
update
massage
it.
I'll massage it a little, make sure that I give you
But I
at
think
least
it's
an overview of what that solar carport looks like, because it looks like it is a revenue neutral or cost neutral thing for us, for the few
Now,
years.
how many stations does that have? Oh, it doesn't have any stations yet, but it doesn't come with the stations either. You have to purchase the
Correct,
stations,
yeah,
right?
the charging stations would be a completely
But
different.
you're
project.
doing the infrastructure already.
So
What did you
we-
plan on, 3 or 4?
I want to say I want to say it was 3, but I'd
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
pull
I'm
up
just
and look
curious.
at it. Yeah,
that's all.
and my mind is changing a little bit about that as I see them roll out into the wild as well, is that we do not need to have half of them on a charger and half of them off the charger. You think it's very, very similar to a gasoline situation. So as long as I'm able to top off and have, these industrial grade chargers, I probably only need.
You're not gonna regret adding it.
No, there's a
having an
best
extra.
practice emerging, and I want to say it was a charger for every 5 vehicles or something like that.
Yeah.
So probably 2 at the very least, and I would probably.
I
lean
would,
towards
I would
3.
hit 3. I mean, if they're just
Yeah.
roughing it in.
So
I'll
we
ask
would
around.
need the
You know?
pricing on that,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know why.
You
I
always
thought
run an
that
extra
was how they
conduit
come
for
from too.
anything.
And you said there's 9 fleets, or 9?
There's 9 vehicles, yeah.
9 vehicles in the fleet.
Yeah.
How many, how many vehicles does this canopy is supposed to hold?
I think it will hold the entire fleet and some employee parking as well. Yeah, so
Okay.
Wow.
if you drive out back of the station, it's the larger of the 2 little parking lots. Where we set our police vehicles now is not part of it. It's part of the larger parking lot.
Yeah.
So
Like
I'll
where
have
the
to-
trailers parked at
Correct.
it? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
correct.
all
yeah.
right.
And it
Okay.
covers pavement only. It's no bigger than that footprint that you see. In fact, if you go out there within the next couple weeks until it snows, you can actually see some of the boring
For the pylon.
markings. Yeah, of what the footprint will look like.
And what about like requests that you've been getting, like from the DAV and the senior center for their vehicles? How are you handling that?
I'm not.
Haven't you? I thought the DAV, they're supposed to be getting a van and asked if it could be parked under the canopy. The senior center's getting a van.
The first time I've heard that about the canopy. I've not received a request from them about parking under the canopy. I can tell you that.
So how is that gonna be
Yeah,
handled then? Because
the answer would be
Either way.
a hard no, because we do not have parking. I had training today, and I had to kick some of the officers that were in guests from other communities to make them park out back
Yeah.
because I couldn't even, I had to make room for people that may come in for
Yeah.
normal business. And on a daily basis, our back parking lot is full. I'm looking for handouts to put our trailer somewhere, especially in the winter. So we are very tight on space. So I would say no if it was all possible.
And-
I have received requests in the past from them, and my suggestion, and I talked to the postmaster or someone at the post office before, and said that is someplace that could be utilized for that.
Yeah, no.
As well,
the
parking on federal
postmaster told them
installations.
No,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, so we
They
actually
don't
got
got a whole
permission.
bunch of parking.
That's right.
either.
I think that's
Really
right.
don't.
I think it's a liability. The DAV got permission to get the van. They're gonna have to park it here at Townsend. But they thought once a canopy came up, and we thought maybe when the canopy came up, these are usually early morning appointments.
Right.
You don't wanna get stuck in the snow out here, but they'll work it out.
Yeah. Hard for us because again, we're scrambling for spaces as it were. I was gonna try and see if I could sneak a couple extra spaces in before they put the carport on, but we'll see. It's my understanding that the steel for that project is about a 6-month delay, so we're not probably even gonna break ground until early spring, probably
Because of
February,
fabrication.
March, yeah. Yep, so they wanted to sign
And you
these.
So if
can't-
you're gonna add a couple spots, you had to let them know right away.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't expand them to make like hangovers to make spots, extra
Correct.
spots underneath.
I think the grant is extremely green, so covering green spaces is not part of the equation.
Yeah, yeah,
It's, at least that's what I'm to
Yeah.
understand.
yeah, makes sense.
Makes sense.
So the only other thing I had was, you had talked about the priority. My priority will be the same as it was last year, vehicle leases first,
Yeah.
and the records management project second. The other
Mhm.
ones I'm gonna push out for the later fiscal years. Again, I can't sing the praises of that vehicle leasing project any more than it is. I think the proof is in the pudding when you look at how those lines have been stabilized for the better part of a decade at this point. I think it works very well for us. It decreases downtime, decreases the amount of time we're putting into outfitting these things. I mean, it is pluses all around. The one thing that I'm worried about a little bit this time are those interest rates, and I'll have more for you on January.
Hopefully they'll go down.
I think I've accounted for it a little bit in my forecasting last year, but I'll adjust it if I can. I'll try and get as much information as I possibly can.
Perfect.
Okay,
So we'll,
do you have any questions for us?
Ms. Bazika,
I was gonna say, so we'll see you on the 16th of January.
looks like the
correct?
16th at 4.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have any questions for us?
No, I appreciate the time very much. And again, if
Appreciate you coming in.
if something comes up midstream where you get an idea, you want to see something a little bit early, feel free to reach out. And I usually have this stuff at my fingertips. I dabble in it most days. I spend a few minutes on budget stuff every day. So
In
it's
your
not,
spare time.
right, so it's not something you'd be putting me out for. I'd be more than happy to answer questions for you if you need an
Okay.
answer.
If you want, if it makes it easier for me to send you the report you sent us last year, so you don't have to go
No, I'm good
hunting
to
for
go.
it.
I'm good. I can-
I hate having to redo things. I'm always
Sure.
using whatever I used last
Sure,
year.
no worries. I can take
Okay.
care of that. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Okay.
it. All right, good night.
Hey, you
Yeah,
have
have
a
a
good
nice
night.
day.
Thank you.
Are we on Zoom?
We are. Yeah,
We
nobody
have someone?
joined. I was just thinking about that.
Nobody joined, but we are recording,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Um,
And we're still recording. We're still in session.
Okay, so,
So the police chief should be on his, police chief, sorry,
Fire chief is on his
fire
way.
chief is on his way. He should be here shortly.
All right, well, I'm gonna run to the men's room real
Yeah.
quick. Should we, good
thank
night,
you.
should we do something to make the dates official or?
Yeah, I have to get that.
Okay.
I gotta get that agenda. I can do
I just want to go through
that.
those dates again, the 16th, the 23rd, and the
And the
30th.
30th, yeah.
January.
16th, 23rd, and 30th, yeah. I will make those, what I'm just gonna do is take the agenda that we have and just change the dates on,
Right,
and then get those out.
yeah.
Okay, so the 12th we just had, and that, what we have, I'm gonna see if I can get this back up here. I know we're recording, it's all right to me that this is on Zoom. See how great minds work, Jerry.
Oh, my goodness, I couldn't believe it. Thank goodness I don't live too far from here.
I'm glad you were able to make it in, so we had an agenda. that-
Who's not here, who are the other two people? Who's Natalie and who? Is there another one besides Natalie?
Natalie and, Chris, is it Chris?
Oh, Chris.
Yeah, and Chris always makes it too,
Oh,
so,
yeah, he
but he's having shoulder surgery, so,
Oh, yeah, he did, he probably.
so it might be in that, that's going on.
Mm.
Cause he's never missed a meeting.
I'm
That I
pretty
know
good
of.
about that, yeah, that surgery is a miserable surgery.
Okay, let's see if I can get this up in front of us. Okay, so here was today's meeting. I'm gonna make a copy of it. Nope, it's not up there. Hold on. You can walk me through this. I gotta get a new computer. This thing
You
is
gotta get what?
so slow. I could bake a cake while it's coming up. It's just so slow.
On Sunday, the Historical Society is having it's a Victorian Christmas open house
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which place?
at down the Reed House.
Oh, I
And
have to
it's
try
at,
that if I
yeah.
might. Am I around this Sunday?
Yeah, it's 1 to 4, and,
Wonderful.
and we have carolers, and we have
Ooh.
we had some students coming in that are getting dressed, and,
I'll make sure I announce it at tonight's meeting with the selectmen.
um,
I'll make sure I announce it
Yeah,
at tonight's
absolutely.
meeting, yeah, with the selectmen.
well, it's Sunday, so you don't have another, do you have a meeting tonight?
Tonight?
Oh, you do? Oh, if you had mentioned it'd be wonderful.
Nothing
Where's the
like-
fire?
Where's the fire?
Am I too late?
Yeah,
just
so we
right
are
on time.
recording, so don't say
That's
anything
all right.
bad about me.
I would never say bad about anyone.
Okay, so to start, thank you so much for coming. I do apologize for
All
the
good.
communication issue,
good.
and I greatly appreciate you rushing down here. For those who were not here at the beginning of the meeting and might be watching, as I said, I did not communicate with either the fire chief or the police chief that I was expecting them today, and both of them rushed down here to be here with us, since this is a posted meeting and some of you might be watching from home. So my apologies and my thanks for rushing to get here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all of that.
As we found out, we were running on the basis that we had to present your budget to the Board of Selectmen by January 8th. But what Eric has come to inform us was that we had our dates confused. It's you have to present your budget to Eric by January 8th.
Okay.
And I have to march, we, the Capital Planning Board, has to march to present to the Board of Selectmen, and that's 60 days before the meeting. So we are rushing you inappropriately, so it's not due today. So what we had like to do, since this was a posted agenda, and there might be people out there that are expecting to see a budget from you and expecting this meeting, we thought we would still go forward with this meeting and just have you review the information that we had for next year, but this will not be a formal request.
Is this finance or capital plan?
Cap.
Capital,
Yeah.
okay? We'll come back for the formalized request. We'll give you the January 16th
Okay.
to formalize it. But if we could get some, and we'll make sure the invitation gets to you more
Okay.
appropriately.
So good. 16?
Yeah,
What time for?
but what,
4 o'clock.
4:30?
yeah, 4 o'clock in this room. But what we basically would like to do is sort of see what you presented to us last year. And then I know there has been some talk, especially with yours, funding gets a little different because they could be funded through capital allocations, they could be funded through your own ambulances funds, or they could be funded from ARPA. So we kind of like to look at what we have already. We'll pull it up on the screen, or you can just kind of go through it. And what you presented us last year. And if you, that's a living, breathing document from last year. You're not stuck with it. Just because we approved that for last year, we might need to allocate some changes. And if you have a general idea where you would hope to see it funded from, if you could provide us with that information. But again, today is more getting the background, the idea, especially since we have a selectmen's meeting tonight. Like, there's one thing I'm going to present to the selectmen tonight from the chief that will hopefully we can get funding to offer from. So if you have ideas, then, but it's not the formal meeting. That will be January
We're good.
16th. Okay?
So what do you got?
And your turkey was wonderful.
I love it.
Just for the record, I didn't
And you
ruin
had
it.
to pay for it, so
I
nobody
did,
questions whether or
yeah.
not
Oh,
that's freebies.
I paid for it and I,
Oh.
no, I didn't know. I bought 30 pounds
That's good.
because
And
I didn't
you
know.
even invite your neighbors?
30
Come on.
pounds for 6 people.
I had leftovers.
That's a lot
So
of
what-
turkey.
There shouldn't be a whole lot left
Okay.
open for this fiscal year. I think most.
Right,
of
this
thought,
fiscal
yeah.
year, we should be done. What I'm talking about is you presented all the way out to 2028. So
Mhm.
what I'm kind of looking at, like, what do you foresee changing?
So let's take, if we can.
Yeah,
Let's look at 24, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and tell me what you've got on that. I didn't bring that with
okay,
me.
that,
I
yeah,
have a
okay.
more of an immediate piece in front of me, but I'm grateful for the town and the support we've had on our engines, on the support trucks, which are in service. Now we got to get thinking about getting rid of some surplus stuff that's just worn out. And so what do you got for 20?
Are we talking 25 tonight, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna talk, we're not kind of bringing everything past 24, so 25, 6, 7, 8,
I
just get
figured
a
if you wanted
general
to
idea of
recapture
what we
anything
have
that you
in
had for
there.
24.
It's already submitted though, correct? Yeah.
Right, that's okay.
Yeah, did you have some you wanted to bring up about 24? Maybe.
Maybe.
It's
So go ahead.
taking forever for my meeting
Can I
to
just
come up, just
look
give me
over
a
that?
second,
Sure.
so.
Oh, thank you.
I do know, oh, there it is.
Fire department doesn't show anything until 26,
Right.
and that's 135, 27, I'm sure is air packs at 525, 24 is probably a fire engine and the ambulance, which are already the ambulance.
For 4 years in the future, yeah.
And so for 25, we really don't have much. So the 135, I'd have to look at the detail. I'm kind of coming off the hip on that. 135 for 26. What do you have on the detail on that?
It should be coming up now. It says it should be coming up.
I didn't bring that with me. I brought other stuff with me.
Pretty
Hold on.
quick internet in here,
I'm
I
sharing the
think
wrong
it's
part.
been slow around town
huh?
lately.
Has it?
Yeah.
Hold on a second while I get this up. I apologize again. It's here. It's just not coming up. I do know one of the things we had talked to, like you and I both had talked about, and I talked to your son as well, about the needs for civil preparedness. And I know we definitely would like to look, when you look at the budget, where what needs to be added so that we are more prepared for
So-
that.
You know what, let's not even worry about that, Teresa. I lived this, so I got a pretty good idea where we're at. When Eric called me tonight, he asked if I was coming, and then I didn't have everything set out, but we've been working on this. This date on this one is October the 12th. So this one's been morphing over the past 6 weeks and prior to that. So we've taken over emergency management for the town, effective this year, and Shirley and company have done a great job. The volunteerism is something of the past. We don't see that like we used to. So we're utilizing all of our fire EMS staff to be able to do what needs to be done. But looking at it, the equipment is pretty much non-existent with a $5,000 a year budget that they've had for the past umpteen years. So, as I said to the selectmen and the town administrator when I came on, I'll do whatever you say, but you just need to be aware of what we're up against.
Right.
And,
Did they
last
have
year-
a vehicle?
no.
No.
I didn't think so, okay.
Last year, we ran 1659 on calls, 1,659 calls. This year, we're trailing a little bit, where as of this morning, we were at 1,520 and change. So we probably we might hit 1,600 by the end of the year unless something gets crazy, which is good. But the types of calls that we're getting are varied, and some of them are much wilder than we've done in the past. And we look at Leominster when they had 7 or 10 inches of rain in a 2-hour period, and it brought to light that we don't have a flat bottom boat for any type of water rescue. We get the Squanicook River, and we need to pay attention to that. We need to pay attention to all the little tributaries and any type of flooding that could have. And a flat bottom boat is something you can walk up a street and grab someone who is not ambulatory and get them out of there. So we've looked at things like that. These are just samples of where we've been. We've looked at the incidences of weapons involved in a variety of places. And there are folks that have told me around town, we'll never have to worry about it. It'll never come here. But, we've seen it too often. If Jay was here, he might touch upon the cache of weapons that were retrieved from a residence here in town not that long ago. So we know they're there, and people have the right, but we have to be prepared for that. So we want to have our EMTs and some of our paramedics and some of our firefighters that are trained in this to have flak jackets, ballistic vests, and helmets to be able to get into a potentially tense area. And not a lot of them, but 2 people to a group and either 2 or 4 sets. Not a lot of money, it's $1,000. But then we started to look at other things that we would use during, if we were to have an electrical problem that shuts down like it did 10 years ago. Great to have a fallout shelter, but if the fallout shelter isn't set up for heat and all of that, how do we get to folks? How do we get to people if we have a snowstorm like we've had for rainstorms in the past year? Instead of 4 inches of rain, you get 3 or 4 inches of water that's turned into snow. How do we get to them? So we've compiled a list and we've looked at it and we've chopped it up, we've cut it down, and so on and so forth. And we're not paying for an ambulance this year. And we did pick up a rescue truck through the COVID money so that we can save our ladder truck. I don't mean to bore you with internal operations details.
No, it's good news. It's good information.
So our ladder truck, we paid $800 and change, $850, $890 for in 2009. If you were to buy a ladder truck today, you'd start at $1.5 million, and you'd start at $1.5 million, and you would have a few year wait, and then you go up for there, and in clear conscience, I can't come to the town and say, hey, we need to think about a ladder truck. So I'd like to set the ladder truck up for a 30-year run instead of a 20-year run. So that means we're halfway through the life of it. And how do we minimize the potential exposure of that truck? And the thought was that we buy a used rescue truck, and we hunted the country and we found one. It was advertised at 100, then it dropped down to 75. And then it went down to 69,000. And I was dealing with a truck broker in Pennsylvania, and we looked at trucks literally around the country, and we thought we had one in Ohio, but it was a standard. Most of our folks aren't adapt on standard. So there was another one, that's what I'm talking about, that was 75, and then I said reduced to 69. And called them and I said, I got a $30,000 budget, see if they'll take it. So we called them and they said, if you get it out of here this weekend, we'll take it. So we went and we bought the truck, we're through the process. The process is complete. All the documents are done, and the town bought that truck for $30,000. It's now in our station. And we'll utilize that truck in place of the ladder truck. So for extrication, for quick response, the footprint is much smaller. So instead of it being a 30-odd foot truck, it's only a 22-foot truck, and it just carries tools and equipment without that ladder overhead. A lot of the equipment that we got on the ladder truck we'll take off the ladder and we'll put on this. It'll take some weight off the truck as well, and hopefully add some longevity to this truck. it won't go out in a snowstorm or a motor vehicle accident unless we confirm that we need something for significant power and extrication, which has got its own onboard hydraulic system, and it's got its own onboard jaws of life, Hurst tools, spreaders, jacks, cutters, things like that.
How old is it?
How old is it?
Mm,
Well, 2009.
mhm.
But this truck that we're putting in place is 20-something years old.
Sure.
And it's got 11,000 miles on it, and it's got 1,600 hours on it. To replace this truck, it depends on what you get for a truck and all that. It would start at 400 and go to 800. So we got it for 30. It's in great condition, but now we got to outfit it. So we first thought about just taking the equipment from the ladder and putting it on the rescue truck. And then, of course, they had the flood in Leominster, and we didn't get called because we didn't have a boat. So we talked about that. We talked about what we needed. We talked about that we got Gumby suits that are 15 years old. Gumby suits are used for cold water rescue. They need to be replaced at $2,700 a piece. And my concern is to make sure everybody in our group is safe. So ultimately, we're $100,000 shy of equipment to put on this
For
truck.
that truck,
For that truck.
it includes the suits you just spoke about.
It includes, I'll give you a quick list. First cordless rescue tools, rabbit tools, Zodiac 16-foot Saturn boat, live action flotation suits, landfall, watch rescue suits and helmets, life jackets, rope bags, waterproof first aid kits, backpack survival kits, snowshoes, snow shovel spades, things like that that we'd use in any of the state forests when people are out there camping in the winter. Assorted chains and hooks, assorted impact sockets, mechanics tools. Sometimes, like we had a problem down at Deluxe this year, somebody's hand went through a printing press. And instead of cutting that heavy steel apart, we just took the machine apart. So we got to have the right tools, both metric and American, SAE, USS, to disassemble something quickly. Cordless tools, some hand pumped hydraulic jacks. Sometimes you get into a place, if we came in here and that fell on somebody, there was somebody underneath it. Instead of just putting two people underneath it, lifting up, and you jerk it, you put a hydraulic jack on anything and you jack it up slowly so it doesn't increase the damage to someone. Submersible electric water pumps, a different type of a transient rescue boat. Whether or not we put a motor on it, I don't recommend. Wedge tools, door spreaders, things like that. So if someone's stuck in their house or we can't get into them, it's $1,400 for that. We are now putting Knox boxes, and we're offering them to the infirmed and the elderly if they want to live alone, they want to have that dignity, they want to have all that, but they've got an alarm on them if they fall over and they need help. Instead of doing forcible entry or waiting for a person to move in, we offer them a Knox box, and we screw it to the side of the door, and only fire officers, not everybody
That's a
has a
great
key.
idea.
Only fire officers have access to that. So any of the fire officers that are OIC officer in charge or on call can go, and there's somebody always on call. And that's an internal operation that we have, so that there's never an alarm and no one shows up. There is always someone in charge. So that person is responsible 24/7, regardless of where they are. They got to be in town. We pay them $2.50 an hour, the best bargain in town, to be on call. And if the alarm goes in, then they get their 17 or 18 bucks. And my opinion is the paid call department is the best bargain in town. Those folks only get paid when they go to work 24/7. And if they're on call or they're assigned to it, only the officer gets a $2.50 an hour stipend. Everybody else is per diem or paid call when they go out the door. It starts to add up. So, with that, we need to give them the tools and equipment to make sure folks are taken care of, and we need to not break down doors, or we need to do all of that stuff. So I think we're 100,000 shy to outfit that truck. The good news is last year.
Using ambulance funds or not?
The good news is, thanks for getting that, Mark. The good news is last year we paid off our second ambulance.
Mhm.
And, so the deal, like, if I can say that we made with finance was that we'll give $600,000 a year back, and anything over that we can use to improve the equipment. Great to have trucks, but you gotta have something in those toolboxes when they show up. So this year, I think, and we are on track for similar income. We have a billing service that bills all the ambulance rides and and generates that income and goes into an enterprise account, which is labeled the ambulance reserve receipt account. Kind of well aware of that because I watched my father set that up 25 years ago. And I think it's worked out well, but the money should go into the areas that it came from, in my opinion. So I think realistically, with everything I just listed, as well as battery operated extrication tools, you might say, well, you've got hydraulically operated extrication tools on the ladder truck. And I would say, you're right, we do, but
Cumbersome.
it's cumbersome. And the other thing is, if your car rolls down an embankment,
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
there's
How
a
many
lot of
feet
truck
always you
can't
got?
go a lot of places,
So-
yeah.
these other ones would fit in the truck and carry them down. We did a in-service and a demo on the 18th of November at the highway garage, where we cut up a car really quickly. And if you're heading out into the woods, we can do it. Sadly, we're on television. I don't want to give details. I certainly don't want to give any information of people that we've had to help in those situations, but they are there.
Right.
And because they are there, we learn from them, and this is where we're at. So that truck is sitting down there. I'd love to have you all come down at any time, take a look at it, walk through it, understand what it does. It's got a cascade system on it, which means that if we have a fire and our air packs run out of the air, that truck can roll in with its own air in that truck, and we can fill up our air packs.
Is it like an air generator or an
Yeah,
oxygen
yeah,
generator?
it carries breathable air for ISCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. But it also can support our partners in the neighborhood. Ashby, Lunenburg, if they wanted it, Groton or Pepperell, if they wanted it, Brookline's got one. But we've got one here that will help us. We also have a telescoping light tower, which has 4 oscillating lights that turn around and can focus where we are. So if we're out in the woods, we can go up 40 feet
On this truck you purchased for 30
and
grand.
aim in. So,
Wow.
Good,
the biggest thing at night is not for people to be able to see where they're walking and what they're doing, so we can flood that area. So we've got that. It's got the onboard generator, PTO driven. It's got air conditioning, it's got heat in the back, acts as a rehab center. So if somebody comes out of the water, somebody that a fire, a long duration event at night in the winter, they get in the back and stay warm. In the summer, if it's really hot, they get in the back and get cool. What do we need? We need that list. We need to do a few more things. And I think as time goes on, where hospitals have less staff and they require, the requirements coming to local emergency services is greater. We need to make sure that we can get them out and we can assess them. And we do run the paramedic ALS level. So we have a Lucas machine, which can externally do CPR on people. It's a machine that sits on them. We can do ultrasound. We can innovate. We can do a number of other functions. We also have respirators in the back, as well as a ventilator. So if somebody has difficulty breathing and they need to be vented, we can do that. So all of these programs work hand in hand with each other. And ultimately, that's where we're at. And tonight's conversation, from my perspective, is to say to you, we need $100 grand.
Yeah, and I think the easiest way, based on what you said, is it's 100 grand to a line item like 25, instead of replace engine 2, right? Equipped truck 5, 100 grand. And
Equip a rescue truck.
rescue truck 5 or whatever, a line item there. And then we've, got the narrative behind it. You can give us some more detail on the 16th, but when we get it. The one question I would have from you, I get that what you need, I get the need, by completely behind you on civil preparedness. Yeah. I just remember when I was stationed at Devon's, we used to give away equipment to the town. Does that program still exist anymore?
So I don't know. Here's my observation, my personal observation. There are opportunities where things are given away, but by the time they're given away,
They're not working.
they're either obsolete or they're specialized or they're, now I would go more on the obsolete side. It's
Okay.
rare that someone's gonna call us up and say, hey, we have a $60,000 set of battery operated extrication tools.
Yeah.
And the world's changed and the expectations have changed. So we got forest fire trucks that are old. Fine, they're old, it's forest fire. Someone's life may be in jeopardy, but probably not. We can get to them. But with some of this stuff, we gotta get in your building quickly.
No, I'm not saying that you don't need this stuff. I'm just curious if any of those programs still even exist anymore. I just remember one thing we gave away, where, like, I don't know even who took them. We gave away 3,000 slippers. Like, who needs it? But it was like, they somehow decided they got better slippers, because Devon's used to be considered emergency site. So we always used to have those drills, emergency drills, and we'd have to give people slippers in a robe and give them a room and whatever, and somehow we got better
Some
slippers.
days are over.
We gave away 3,000 slippers, but I remember.
We have
all
cots, we have blankets, we have all of that
Yeah,
if we
all
need
of
it.
that.
But we need some of the other stuff
Yeah,
and it hasn't been upgraded in a long time.
yeah,
So where do you
no, and
store
it's time that it is.
Where do you put it?
All in the trucks and we have trailers.
With
in
the
our-
cots and everything?
Oh, the cots, we have
Yeah.
a trailer that's in our harbor station that is fully set up to be its own mobile
Oh,
housing unit.
right.
Showers and beds and cots and
Portable
dehydrated,
setup showers, things like
No.
that.
dehydrated food if we need it, things like that.
Now, we still have TEMA, it used to be in here, Townsend Emergency, right? But they've never been funded, or were they funded at one point? or-
No, they never really, I don't know if they didn't ask or what, but they get 5,000 a year.
That was it.
So Billy Elliott's our deputy, he's 64, and he ages out in the spring. And Billy's got way too much experience to let him go, so I've asked him to be the emergency management director.
Okay.
And his deputy director is Jeff Cormier, who's a paramedic with us. The two of those guys have done a great job working through and identifying some of what we have and what we need to do, which we still got a ways to go. But can't do much on $5,000.
No.
Yeah.
Can I go back to the boat for a minute?
Sure.
I think it's a great idea, by the way. But, do we have it yet? We don't have the boat, no, okay.
This is part of the
So,
100,000.
Is this part of that? Okay, so, obviously, we have to be some specialized training for people that are going in the water, and yeah, so, where does that happen?
Why don't you come? Yeah, I'm inviting you, and I'm not being sarcastic.
He's gonna put the suit on you,
No,
put you in
no,
the
no,
water,
no,
see
no,
if
no.
you get cold.
No, I won't do that, I won't do that. But I think, and I've tried to get our department to reach out to folks and let them know what we do. And on our site, sometimes we post things, but we train every Tuesday. And in cold water time, we will do a cold water training where we put on the Gumby suit or the Stern suit and we go into the water. So we do that training. We don't have a boat to train on.
Okay.
But if somebody puts on a cold water rescue suit, they're tethered to shore. So for every guy in the water, there's 3 guys on the
All
shore.
right.
And they can pull them in. There's straps that are built into them. But yes, we train regularly. We give you a little sidebar. Medics, the other day, last Tuesday, were trying to do intubation. That's when you take a tube and you stick it down the throat, you go in through the trachea, kick up the epiglottis and get into the lungs. And the paramedic said to me, geez, we gotta find something. The pig's throat is very much like a human's
You
throat.
would make sure it's fine too.
So we went to the local slaughterhouse and picked up 12 pig throats, and we practiced on real live pig throats. If you, they're not live, but they were. They were a day old, and we trained like that. So we try to find things that will give us the best experience for a real life situation. And I think you might be surprised to witness the level of training that we do in that.
I'd like to see it, I really, especially the.
You
water
should,
training,
Jerry,
yeah.
you really should.
You come down anytime. Anytime, I don't even have to be there.
Tuesdays.
Knock on the door. Anyone that's working knows as much as I do, maybe even more, and they'll be able to tell you what that equipment does. And it's a seconds game.
Mhm.
We play a seconds game.
Mhm.
And that boat that he's talking about, that truly is, it's a
Oh, I see.
high bottom boat that blows up in a second.
Yeah,
So our air packs, that SCBA that I talked about that's on the rescue truck, we roll in, that boat is in a compartment. You
Mhm.
pull the bag out that the boat's in, unzip it, plug an SCBA bottle on it, turn the valve.
yeah.
But he has a hard bottom, that's the thing that gets me. I'm like, where did the hard bottom come from?
Yeah,
And then you go to work.
yeah, I think, I'm surprised, I'm glad we're getting one.
Well, we ain't getting it yet, it hasn't been funded.
Well,
Oh, wait.
We're working for you.
Right?
We're working for
You
you.
talked about a town that has ponds,
The river.
river,
We had a drowning
Yeah.
at Vinton Pond.
right? yeah.
Right, after seeing what happened in Leominster, I don't
Yeah.
think, we can't keep going like this.
God,
We
I
have
lived in
to-
Leominster for 28
Yeah.
years. I couldn't believe that
That
happened.
was
So
fun.
But it can happen here,
Unbelievable.
it can happen here.
Happen anyway.
It can
It can
happen anywhere, you're right.
Exactly.
You're right.
The things that wake me up in the middle of the night are things that I've heard on the news and say, could that happen here? Okay, we probably won't have a volcano and there's other things that we won't have.
You
However,
never know.
however, there are plenty of things that we do. And then I look around our station, I say, all right, well, we could call your town. But if the same thing's going on here, maybe going on there, and
Right,
you're not gonna give it up.
that's right,
So maybe it's $100,000 insurance policy we never need.
right. But
No, it's needed. It's
I,
definitely needed.
So
Well,
that's,
that's it.
Well, that's a lot easier than swallowing a $1 million fire truck,
million and a half.
million and a half.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for coming in. We will
Pick up the
see you
check on
for
the way
the,
out?
yeah. You get the check on the way
No,
out.
we're gonna put it in the mail.
Put the checks in the mail. We'll see you for the formal thing, but I will bring it up in tonight's meeting to see, because we are looking at other ways of funding. And like I said, we might be looking at other ARPA funding too, so maybe
There's
there's
an idea.
some
If-
funding
if-
through there.
I don't know where, I got the APRA piece here, I'm not gonna lie to you, I have looked at it. And that's all on whatever you guys all seem is right and appropriate. But I have looked at your APRA stuff, and that's what helped us fund the rescue truck.
Right, but what good, it's a great truck, but it needs to be equipped right, right?
So there
So,
are some things, if I could encourage the powers that be to move closer towards a green light, some of that stuff is a 6-month delay. So if we wait for July in order, it's a year
Right.
out.
that's why, yeah. And that's what we had to do with the fire truck last year. We know it's like not coming for 4 years, but whatever.
So some of the equipment on that.
But we approved 2 fire trucks.
$100,000 could be 6 months out.
It is 6 months.
It is 6 months.
Okay,
I will tell you that our engines that we bought, one of them has had a 11% increase, which is $80,000, which we are pushing back on. We've had some very,
Yeah, I
very,
thought we ordered it specifically so this would not happen.
so that's true. So just give you a little sidebar. These engines, first one we bought was 735, and the next one was 8 and change. These engines, before we get them, the new ones being ordered will be $1 million.
Yeah,
a
I
piece.
bet.
Crazy, crazy.
crazy.
All right, thank you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you again for coming in and being patient with me.
Come for a visit.
I will.
You have a nice day and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Take care.
Bye.
All right.
Okay, we'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'd like to put something.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jerry. Any other business?
I had accepted the vice chair. I would like to pass that on to Mark.
We'd like to know, unaccepted?
Not accept it, and I would
Pass
like
it
to
to-
nominate Mark.
I told Jerry that I would do that if the.
Oh, okay,
board
then
saw-
I
if the- if
second
the-
that request.
All
All those in favor of making Mark vice chair?
Gerald Mazeikis.
Mark Hussey.
Teresa Morse, all vote yes. And then can I make a motion that we put you into the clerk position? And you know, I do all the minutes and everything, so there's nothing for you to do.
Good.
But we have to have somebody there.
You can have me there, but.
I need a second.
I make a yeah, all right, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Mark Hussey.
Jerry Moss. Motion to adjourn at
28,
5:28.
I'll second that.
Yes,
Well, roll call vote for the adjournment.
yes. Gerald Mazeika, yes.
Mark Hussey, yes.
And Teresa A. Moss. Yes, the motion's adjourned.